Long ago, in a quiet village by a wide river, there lived a girl named Amina. She was kind and hard-working. Her laugh was like the sound of birds singing, and her smile lit up the darkest days. Everyone in the village loved her, but her heart belonged to one person, a boy named Kofi. Kofi was a hunter. He was brave and strong, with eyes that glimmered with kindness. He often shared the animals he caught with the elders and children. Amina and Kofi spent many evenings together, sitting by the big baobab tree that stood at the edge of the village. The tree was ancient, its roots deep in the earth, and its branches stretched wide, providing shade and comfort. Under its branches they shared dreams of the future. But there was one who watched them from afar, his heart burning with jealousy. Abioye, the chief's son, had long been obsessed with Amina. To him, her beauty was like a rare jewel, and he believed she deserved to be his. He would stop at nothing to make her his bride, even if it meant destroying Kofi. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold, Kofi turned to Amina. "Will you be my wife?" he asked. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed hope and nervousness. Amina's heart swelled, and her smile was brighter than the setting sun. "Yes, Kofi, I will," she replied, her voice trembling with joy. They made a promise under the baobab tree to always love each other, no matter what came their way. The tree seemed to rustle its leaves in approval, as if blessing their union. But Abioye, hidden among the shadows, heard their words. His heart twisted with anger, his obsession deepening. "She is mine," he muttered. That night, he vowed to claim Amina for himself, no matter the cost. The next morning, Abioye confronted his father. "Amina must marry me," he demanded. The chief, a stern but indulgent man, raised an eyebrow. "Why her?" he asked. "She is the most beautiful woman in the village," Abioye said. "It would bring honor to our family." The chief sighed. He had always given his son what he wanted, and this was no exception. That afternoon, the chief's guards arrived at Amina's home. "You will marry Abioye at the next full moon," they declared. Amina's heart shattered. She ran to Kofi, her tears falling like rain. "What will we do?" she cried. Kofi held her hands tightly, his own eyes filled with worry. "We will find a way. Meet me by the baobab tree tonight. We will ask the spirits for help." That evening, as Amina waited under the baobab tree, Kofi was preparing to meet her. But before he could leave, Abioye's guards burst into his home. They bound him with ropes and dragged him into the forest, far away from the village. "You will not interfere with the marriage," one of the guards sneered. They left a note behind, forged in Kofi's handwriting. It read, "Amina, I cannot do this. I must leave. Forget me." Kofi was gone. She waited and waited, her heart heavy with worry. The stars filled the sky, but Kofi never came. At dawn, the guards approached her, pretending to be concerned. "We found this," one of them said, handing her the note. Amina's hands trembled as she read the words. Her knees buckled, and she sank to the ground. Her tears fell onto the soil beneath the tree. "He left me," she whispered. "But why?" Her voice broken. The guards nodded solemnly, hiding their deceitful smiles. Amina knew she couldn't do anything, because whatever Abioye wanted, he would get. The next full moon arrived, and the village buzzed with excitement. Abioye and Amina's wedding was grand, with feasts, music, and dancing. But Amina's heart was heavy, her joy feigned. She wore a beautiful dress and smiled for the villagers, but her eyes betrayed her sorrow. During the celebration, she moved like a shadow of herself, her mind drifting to the baobab tree. She thought of Kofi, his laughter, his promises, and the love they had shared. Her chest tightened with every passing moment, but she forced herself to endure. "Abioye," basking in the glory of the event, watched her closely. He knew she was unhappy, but believed that, in time, she would come to love him. He could not see the deep wound he had caused. After the wedding, she had everything a lady could dream of: wealth and a life full of comforts. But deep down, she felt empty. She hid a secret, one that no one knew. She often wandered to the baobab tree, where she could feel the wind speak to her and the trees whisper her name. She sat beneath its branches, her hands tracing the rough bark as if searching for answers. She spoke to the tree, her voice trembling in despair. "Didn't you say our love was true?" she asked, tears streaming down her face, but the tree remained silent, its branches swaying gently in the wind. One day, as Amina ventured deeper into the woods, she stumbled upon an old, forgotten cottage. It was small and overgrown with ivy, but something about it called to her. The air felt heavy, as if the place held secrets. She pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The cottage was dusty, filled with cobwebs and broken furniture. On a wooden table, she noticed a journal, yellowed with age. She opened it and began to read. Her heart raced as she realized it told the story of a young man who had disappeared from the village many years ago, a man named Kofi. The handwriting was shaky, but the words described someone who had been taken away and betrayed. Amina's heart skipped a beat. Could this be her Kofi? The dates didn't match, but the story felt eerily familiar. She couldn't stop thinking about it, and yet she told no one. That night, she hid the journal from anyone to see, its words haunting her dreams. The mystery of the forgotten cottage consumed her thoughts, but she didn't dare share it with anyone, not even Abioye. She needed to uncover the truth alone. Amina prepared herself and left early the next morning, making sure no one saw her. She wore a simple cloak and carried a small bundle of food. Her heart pounded as she stepped into the forest, knowing she had to move quickly and carefully. The path was wild and overgrown, with twisted roots and thick vines making each step a challenge. The forest was alive with sounds: chirping birds, rustling leaves, and the distant howl of animals. She pressed on, her determination stronger than her fear. The journal's clues guided her, but the way was not easy. At one point, she had to cross a stream with slippery rocks, nearly falling into the cold water. Later, she encountered a dense thicket of thorns that tore at her cloak and scratched her arms. Despite the obstacles, she refused to turn back. The thought of finding out the truth behind the journal kept her going. Back in the village, Abioye noticed Amina's absence. It was getting dark. Suspicious, he questioned the servants, but no one knew where she had gone. Enraged, he ordered his guards to search everywhere, including the forest, and bring her back. "She belongs to me," he snarled. The guards spread out, their torches lighting up the dark paths, but Amina was already deep into the woods, hidden by the shadows. As the day turned to evening, Amina felt the weight of exhaustion, but pushed forward. Just as the journal described, she came upon a hidden clearing where the air seemed unnaturally still. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw a small, dilapidated hut surrounded by tall grass. Inside, she could hear faint sounds, a whisper, a groan. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward. In the hope of discovering the truth about Kofi lay within. Amina pushed the creaking door open and stepped into the hut. The dim light filtered through cracks in the wooden walls, revealing a figure slumped in the corner. Her heart pounded as she recognized Kofi. His once strong frame was now weak, his wrists bound with coarse rope. His head hung low, but he stirred at the sound of her steps. "Kofi!" Amina's voice broke as she rushed to his side, her hands trembling as she untied the ropes. Kofi blinked, his eyes adjusting to the light. When he realized it was her, tears welled up in his eyes. "Amina, you found me," he whispered, his voice hoarse and filled with relief. Amina cradled his face in her hands, her tears falling freely. "I never gave up on you. They lied to me, Kofi. They said you left me." Her voice cracked, each word heavy with pain. Kofi clenched his jaw. "Abioye, he did this. He wanted to keep us apart." Amina helped him to his feet, her resolve hardening. "We need to leave before they find us. We'll face Abioye together and tell the village the truth." As they stepped out of the hut, the forest seemed to come alive around them, as if urging them forward. But their escape was not unnoticed. In the distance, the sound of voices and the flicker of torchlight pierced the darkness. Abioye's guards were closing in. "We have to hurry," Amina said, gripping Kofi's hand tightly. They ran through the dense forest, dodging roots and branches, their breaths coming in sharp gasps. The guards' shouts grew louder, and fear gripped Amina's heart. But just as the torches came into view, the ancient baobab tree loomed ahead, its mighty roots reaching out like protective arms. A strange wind whipped through the air, and the guards hesitated, their torches flickering. Kofi and Amina collapsed at the base of the tree, their hands clasped together. Amina looked up at its towering branches and whispered, "Great tree, protect us." The air grew heavy, and the guards stumbled back, their faces pale with fear. The baobab's leaves rustled, and a deep voice echoed through the clearing. "True love cannot be destroyed. Leave this place." The guards dropped their torches in fear and fled, their screams fading into the distance. Amina and Kofi held each other, their hearts racing but safe under the tree's protection. At dawn, Amina and Kofi returned to the village hand in hand. The sight of Kofi alive sent whispers rippling through the crowd. Amina stepped forward, her voice steady as she recounted the truth of Abioye's treachery. The villagers listened in stunned silence, their expressions shifting from shock to outrage. Abioye emerged from the chief's hut, his face dark with anger. "These are lies," he shouted, his voice trembling. "They conspire against me." But the chief raised his hand to silence him. "Enough, Abioye. I have heard enough. Your greed and deceit have brought shame upon this family and this village." Abioye's desperation turned to fury. He grabbed an arrow from a nearby guard and hurled it toward Kofi in a final act of rage. Time seemed to slow as the arrow flew through the air, but Kofi sidestepped just in time. The arrow struck the chief in the shoulder instead. A collective gasp erupted from the crowd. The guard seized Abioye, pinning him to the ground. The chief, clutching his shoulder, looked at his son with pain and disappointment. "You bring shame to this family. Leave this village and never return." The villagers cheered as Abioye was dragged away, their faith in justice restored. The chief turned to Kofi and Amina, his voice heavy with regret. "Forgive me for the pain my son has caused. Your love has proven true." Under the baobab tree that evening, the villagers gathered to witness Kofi and Amina's union. Their love, tested and true, became a symbol of hope and resilience. The baobab tree stood as a guardian over their happiness, its branches swaying gently in the wind, a timeless witness to the power of love. Amina looked at Kofi, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and curiosity. "Kofi, how did you survive all that time? A whole month without food or water?" she asked softly. Kofi smiled faintly, his voice filled with wonder. "There were 2 birds," he said. "Every day they flew into the hut through a small hole in the roof. They brought me water in their beaks and small pieces of food. It wasn't much, just enough to keep me alive. I don't know where they came from or why they helped me, but I believe they were sent by the spirits of the baobab tree." Amina's eyes widened. her heart swelling with emotion. "The spirits truly protected you," she whispered, looking up at the tree. Its leaves rustled gently, as if acknowledging her words. From that day on, the story of the miraculous birds and the love that conquered all became a cherished tale in the village. The baobab tree stood as a testament to their enduring love and the mysterious forces that had guided them through their darkest days. The moral of the story highlights the strength of true love and the importance of hope, faith, and perseverance in facing challenges. It shows that love built on honesty and trust can endure even the toughest situations. True love can survive betrayal, separation, and difficulties. It teaches that love is more than just a feeling. It is a promise to face hardships together, supported by faith and determination. Love that is sincere and trustworthy can conquer great obstacles. It is important to value and nurture such love, as it is strong and lasting. Always hold on to hope, even when the journey seems hard. Believing in yourself, your loved ones, and your core values can help you through the most difficult times. Abioye's downfall is caused by his pride and obsession with Amina. He thinks his status gives him the right to control others, leading to his shame and exile. His actions show how jealousy can destroy and how chasing personal desires can harm others' happiness. Pride and jealousy can blind us and damage our relationships. To live a fulfilling life, we need humility, respect for others, and self-awareness. The chief, who initially tolerates Abioye, ultimately seeks justice when the truth comes out. His choice to exile his son, though hard, shows that true leadership requires fairness and accountability, even with family. Real leaders must have humility and the bravery to enforce justice, even at a personal cost. They need to act with integrity to keep peace and trust in their communities. The baobab tree and the birds symbolize spiritual guidance and the idea that the universe supports those who remain true to their values. The tree's protection of Amina and Kofi reflects the rewards of genuine love and faith. Remember, when your intentions are pure and your actions align with virtue, the world often conspires to support your journey. We have come to the end of our story. Please show your support by giving the video a thumbs up. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. For more awesome content, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Until then, see you in the next one.